Hello and welcome to the Tongue of the Trees. I'm Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer. This is Patchouli medicine, and this is the emotional, mental and spiritual aspects. So we went quite deeply into that in the first video, and I kind of played a bit of a trick game, because we can also use the patchouli on a different way for the physical body, but we are relying on how it acts on the mental and emotional bodies for it to work. So what I mean by that is it's a tremendous oil for the skin. We talked about that. We talked about how it's nurturing and nourishing and good for oily skin and good for dried skin. What we didn't talk about deliberately was how it would work on eczema, because this is quite a hidden secret of the oil. Where we're tapping into here is this idea of the sacredness of life, and how a person whose skin is flaking is showing their core feelings about themselves to the world, that they feel flaky. And I talk about that a lot with eczema. In fact, if eczema is something that's interesting to you, I have written a book specifically about eczema that goes much more into this this aspect. We often see a strange relationship with attention seeking, and it's not attention seeking in a bad way. It's just the politics of the family and the way that the person begins to see themselves in the dynamics of the family, but then also starts to resent it and feel shameful about it, to feel it makes them feel flaky. And often we'll see this playing out when we see flare-ups. So in my book, I talk about 3 children actually that I know quite well, that I see it playing out with. And there's one particular little girl whose younger brother was born with a congenital heart defect. And nothing wrong with him, you know, he's a feisty little kid. He is little, but, you know, he can knock around the playground with the rest of them. His bigger sister, in every way, is well and strong, except her skin is outrageous. And use the word, that word was not deliberately picked, but I cannot explain how cleverly that word came to me then, because the rage is on the outside. She is outrageous. And when you watch from a distance, you notice that there is a politics that goes on in the little girl's mind. I'm trying really hard not to say her name. When she's with her mom, her legs, oh my goodness, they're cut to ribbons, and she cannot leave them alone. And make no mistake, I'm not saying she's putting it on. She's not. This is true eczema all over, and it drives her wild. Mom goes, she goes into school, she starts thinking about school. She's still a little bit, but she's writing. Playing in the playground, there's no scratching. There's no scratching at all, because her mind has moved and been distracted, so she doesn't feel the itching any longer. As soon as she's back with mom, she's scratching again. Now, we can see that from several different points of view, can't we? We can see that she is distracted. She's thinking about something else. We can see that she is subconsciously reminding her mom all of the time how much she needs her, how much she needs her attention. But also, we can see it from the patchouli point of view. So the patchouli point of view is anything that gives you pleasure has worth. Why would skipping with a rope heal eczema? We don't know why it would, but it does. It stops that itching. Why would reading a book heal that eczema? It wouldn't, but it does. And it's that moment, that sacredness of life where we go, I am absolutely in my lane. This is my zone. This is my core virtue that I absolutely love. This deep connection is so healing, so healing. And it's hard to find, but patchouli brings it. So we can use that and channel that in cases like eczema, where we feel flaky. We feel like, I feel very shallow that I'm behaving this way. I feel like sitting colouring is a waste of my time. I feel like lazing in bed in the morning is, I should have got other things I could be getting on with. Patchouli goes, come back to yourself. Come back to yourself. So eczema is a classic textbook version of this. It doesn't always have to be eczema. We will see that playing out in lots of different things. We will see it just in anxiety, in depression, in the unwillingness to stop. And we could sell a pot of oil to somebody and we would never know. This is the sort of thing that one watches for when we see a client, and we're watching to see the nature of the person. Do they know how to stop? How do they feel about lying on that couch, excuse me, with my not cashmere? I think I'm going to put patchouli all over this now. I've thought about it. When they're lying on the couch, how do they feel about that? Is it an investment in their time? Is it something that they treasure because they feel that they've earned it? Or do they, I've got to get back to work, I've got to get back to work because work has worth and this does not? It's an imbalance. It's a really bad woman's imbalance. It plays out differently in men, but the root is the same, isn't it? The root is the same. Not understanding that just sitting, being. My mum always used to say that to me. Why don't you just sit and just be? And I'm like, can't just sit and just be. But it is a skill that has worth. And patchouli is extremely good for that. Hence why it's so well used in meditation, because just sit and just be. So when we talk about the emotional component of the oil, we're starting to understand that it's very secure. It feels very, very secure and grounded and like things have worth. But also, it's coquettish, isn't it? Of course it is. We can't have an oil that's associated with the women in the Moulin Rouge kicking up their feet in their big skirts with no knickers on and it not being coquettish, you know? And it's just, and it does smell like sex, you know? It's just oozes it, that sensuality. So, of course, then we kind of going into the realms then of the perfume garden and tantra and all of those things it was used for in India. We talked in the first part about how it brings the energy down into the body, and we can see again how that would play out in the eczema. You know, we're pulling the energy down. When we pull it away from the peripheries, what does it feel like when you're itching? It feels like it's tickling on the edge all the time. So bringing it inwards removes the tickle away. It's very stabilising. Then, of course, as I said in the first part, it is wakeful, but not in an alert way that makes you hyper, like rosemary does to me. It's not hyper, it's quiet, it's focused. So in the recipe hub this month, for those of you who haven't come across it before, we have a database of almost 500 videos now of different recipes. And we have recipes, I will go down the list. 1 second. So we've got a moisturiser in there for acne. We've got a cleanser for seborrhea. We've got an aphrodisiac massage oil. We have an aroma pendant to help you concentrate in exams. So you can't take all your crib notes in, but you can train your brain to go into a quiet place and remember and recall. You can do that very easily with aromatherapy. So we have a recipe to help you to do that. We have a massage oil for scars, one for eczema, and we have meditation blends called Spirit of Aphrodite, Sacredness of Life, and we also have an insect sting balm and a nourishing aftershave balm. So we can see the broad scope of the physical uses, but most of them are tapping into this way of just feeling sacred, feeling quiet, feeling focused. So the spiritual nature we've talked about, I think. So I've put it's a vital part of Hindu, of Buddhist and Sikh incenses for the sacredness of life. It's earth element. I'll talk about that in a moment. It's purposeful knowing and appreciating what's happening in our lives and a sense of caring for the other, of connecting. Again, we could say tantric, we could say hippie, we could say cosmic. All of those things would be true. Going back to the earth element. It smells earthy. And it's unusual actually because with things that have purple flowers usually are air element, and there is an element of air, element in that it's thoughts. But earth talks about our feelings of security, our relationship with how we've been nurtured, how we feed ourselves, how we are cared for. So if you go on to buy the Tongue of the Trees cards, which I hope that you do, because imagine the power of drawing a card that tells you to just think about how life is so sacred and being able to send to yourself so quickly. It's very, very helpful. But at the bottom of each page of the book, down here, we have the elements. So it's a base note, obviously. It activates on several chakras. It's root, sacral, solar plexus and crown, but particularly the root because it is dragging the energy down. The root chakra too is about stability and about safety and about feeling nurtured. So we're coming into that. It's ruled by Mercury, Gemini and Aquarius. Now, I'm not going to go into what that means in this video because it's too complicated. It's too complex. But if you go on to buy the cards, there is a course that goes with it, an optional digital resource called the Knowledge Base, which goes deeply into those different aspects of the medical astrology. So you can go much more deeply into how it works, but I will talk a little bit about the earth medicine now because I think it's helpful. So one of the things I always notice about people, and I spend a lot of time at the school gates, a lot of time. I've been a parent of a school child now for 24 years in total, having much older children and a younger child. So I've come to be able to read mums and their relationships with children very well. So one of the things to look for with this is the way that a person talks in their voice. Obviously not. How do you talk if it's not in your voice? Well, I suppose you do, but... So the example I always give is the kids on the playground. Oh, I've got to stop now and say this because if I don't say it, it's not going to come out my system. I remember the days where we could do this on the playground and not have to worry about a virus. We're going to imagine we're in that place, okay? So the kids are on the monkey bars and they're on the climbing frame, and mum's sitting on the bench and she's watching. Child trips, falls, starts crying. What happens? Listen to the mum's voice. Well, if in some cases she doesn't even look up from her phone, that reflects on the child, and the child starts to lose grounding at the base chakra, not feeling very nurtured at all. But by opposition, what the child develops is this incredible sense of get up and get on with it, because nobody's going to help me anyway. So we have this tremendous sense of this very independent person. So I'm talking about polar opposites, and the ideal situation would be somewhere in between. And these are not judgments on parents. This is an example to show the extremities of the nature. Child falls down. Other mum comes up. Oh, my darling. Oh, no. Let's go home. We're not doing that anymore. That voice there, that, uber saccharine sweet, gives away a huge amount about the relationship with earth energy. Not understanding that the person has resilience of their own. Trying to over nurture, over protect. To be tremendously suffocating in their actions. That child, what does that child end up being? Well, she doesn't know how to get up and do it again, does she? She's been whisked off and probably been overly sanitized now. But that relationship with the earth energy comes from that voice, that overly protective or underly protective, that strange balance of nurturing. It's very, very interesting. And that whole relationship plays out through patchouli. Whether that person whose mother didn't take a blind bit of notice, and I'm saying it was the phone, but I've got to say I've been there before, where I've been in an abusive relationship and my brain was totally disengaged from my children. That affects both me and the child. All of that comes in through patchouli medicine. And likewise, the child who has no security, no feeling of grounding, no sense of deep personal resilience, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-trust, because it's all been relied upon mom. That also plays out through patchouli. Patchouli can be very useful for those. And all of those things would be seen in eczema or psoriasis or any of those natures. So we might not even say that patchouli is useful for asthma. There's nothing about it that says that one should think about the lungs. Absolutely nothing. But the child who starts to panic and has panic attacks or asthma attacks because mum's not there, because they don't feel confident, of course then that becomes patchouli. So very, very interesting. So that is the emotional, the mental and the spiritual aspects of the oil. I'm going to show you the slides now and then the spread. So you can see how the Tongue of the Trees cards work. You can see them in action. And then afterwards, I'll come back and talk about safety and then send you to the most exotic of places. I'm sure that there was a time when Budapest reeked of patchouli, because it does have that very Eastern exotic nature. If ever you get the chance to go, I can't recommend it highly enough to you. And I'm sure it has moments where it's reeked of patchouli. So I'll go and see Gergle and see what he has to say about it. And I'll see you on the other side. to run through a quick layout for you to show you the different cards. Now, one of the things that we're not going to tell you in this video, in these videos, is the poem that goes with the cards. But for this layout, we will read them to you just so that you get a chance to sort of feel how the different poems look. So I thought I'd show you the cards. As you can see, lovely little box. I'll show you the other side. Boring stuff, except for cool stuff what I read. Okay, so if we open it up, we can see that the cards just have one logo on, and that is because these originally were Gegle's cards. He's been selling these for a long time in Hungary. Mostly they've been bought by kinesiologists, interestingly enough. They've been doing the energy work with them. They haven't got any aromatherapy background, but they've been able to tap into the energetics of the oils to be able to move emotional blockages. So let's show you. So these come out nice and easy because we've got beautiful little ribbons. And let's get rid of that. So if I said to the cards, what energy do I need? What oils will help me do the best job with these videos? Let's have a... Now, my friend Belinda used these the other day, and she does have a habit of shuffling them the wrong way. So we'll have to hope that they're all the way right up. I'm not doing a good job of keeping them that way. So let's have a look. What do I need to do a great job? So I think, it's up to you how you do it, but I think cut it 3 ways, cut it back. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So first 3 cards off the top. Cedarwood Virginian. I'll tell you why I'm laughing at that in a minute. Got rose and lavender. That's a beautiful blend, isn't it? Reason why I was laughing about a Cedarwood Virginian is when Gegle and I came to do the notes of all the different cards, we both went, oh, we've done these cards for Cedarwood Virginian and I don't really know how to explain them differently. And because I was doing lots of editing work, I went, oh, just leave it. So yesterday I did a meditation with Cedarwood Virginian and got the most beautiful, beautiful work out of it. So you must tap into that tomorrow, have a listen to that video and see it was really different stuff that came out. So let's have a look. So if we go to the book, we can see that there's a brown streak on cedarwood, and that tells us it's the woods. So we find the woods. Slowly but surely we find the woods. At the back. Okay, so I'm going to use the other cards just to cover up the other pages, because you know what? Sooner or later you're going to have to pay me for something. So, Cedarwood Virginian. Actually, I'll show you this, but I'll read it to you because I'm hoping that it doesn't turn back to front on you, but it may well do. So, Cedarwood Virginian says, hold strong. Don't be swayed by the winds of change around you. Stand tall. Resist the temptation to listen as the naysayers surround you. Keep focused on the job you have in hand. Remain strategic. Don't veer from tactics you've planned. Listen intently to information on the breeze. Remain determined. Your courage is what makes me pleased. Hold strong. Don't be swayed by the winds of change around you. Stand tall. Resist the temptation to listen as the naysayers surround you. Keep focused on the job you have in hand. Remain strategic. Don't veer from tactics you've planned. Listen intently to information on the breeze. Remain determined. Your courage is what makes me pleased. And I'd forgotten, I stopped halfway through because I'd forgotten this is the only one that went like a round. It kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And that taps in beautifully to the determination, doesn't it? I'm keeping on reminding you. I'm keeping on reminding you. I'm keeping on reminding you. So, and actually, definitely watch the video on Cedarwood Virginian, because you'll see just how spooky that is when you see the meditation work I did. Now, you'll also see on here at the bottom of the page, there's the energetics. Now, we're not going to talk about these energetics at all in the video. You might want to go and buy our knowledge base. Now, the knowledge base is completely based on this, and it is a set of lessons on each of the aspects. So middle to base, you're going to hear about that today when Gergely does his blending, so that's there. It also vibrates on the throat chakra. So what does that mean? Within the knowledge base, there is a complete set of information about the different chakras. We do as a lecture on each different chakra, how it affects on the emotional body, how it affects the physical body, how it affects the mental and spiritual bodies, and how that's working. So when we're looking at the knowledge base, this information here describes how the energies move through the system. What energy shift has taken place that we are getting these different physical problems and mental issues. So we can see that cedarwood Virginian operates on the water element and the earth element. And again, in the knowledge base, there's a complete section about, we talk about the about half an hour about the water element, then again about half an hour for the earth element, metal, fire, and whatever the other one is, gone out of my head. And then here we can see Sagittarius. Now, so that tells us that what planetary rulership it comes under. This is medical astrology, and this is actually how I see the different energetics playing out. Some people see it through the Ayurvedic, some people see it through Chinese medicine. This is always the lens I see it through. And usually we'll talk about how it's ruled by the moon or the sun or Saturn and the different trends that we see out. And when we look at an archetype like that, it's like Jade Shoots always says, it's like a metaphor, and that's a great analogy of how you can see the thread playing out right across the medicine. And so you can see that cedarwood Virginian is Sagittarius. So in the knowledge base, we talk about the different signs and planets and also the different houses. If I remember right, Angelica, for example, falls under the Pisces Aries cusp. So that's really quite a difficult one to understand. There's a whole lesson about the Pisces Aries cusp. And then again, Chinese medicine, it nourishes yin. What does that mean? What does it mean? It calms Shen. Shen is an interesting phenomenon all in its own right. It's the consciousness, our mental faculties, our imagination, our emotions, God with a small g, God with a big G. All of those aspects is a complete lesson about Shen and how the essential oils can affect it and change that to move the energy. And then we can see increases Pitta, reduces Vata, balances Kapha. So it's interesting, actually. I do know at the moment all of my oils tend to come out with earth energy. It's quite interesting hearing me do the earth energy lecture because it's entirely about the challenges I am facing at the moment. But if you are somebody who sells essential oils and you're looking for a way in all of the time, right? You're talking to the person at the school gate, for example, and you can see, she seems a healthy girl, to be honest. She's loving her kids, she seems happy. Imagine somebody who's got a really sing-song voice all the time. Oh, my darling, how did you get on today? Was it lovely? I know. And then child walks off. How are you? To everybody. If that sing-song voice never quite relents, then you can imagine that there's an earth energy imbalance. So any oils that fall under earth energy are good ones to sell. So yeah, if you are interested in learning more about that, ways in, just kind of being able to see, talking to somebody, what might be clues of what's going on of that energetic shift, then head over the knowledge base to have a look at that. So what was our next card? It was Rose, wasn't it? Queen of Roses, as you know. I do love my roses. Let's have a look. So the flowers, I think, are at the front of the book, if I remember rightly. Beautiful pink. Oh, it's both flowers, aren't they? So rose, rose, rose. Damask Rose. I was thinking we'd miss Rose out, but it's not under D for Rose. It's under, sorry, it's not R for Rose, it's D for Damask Rose. I remember writing this one, actually. This is quite sad. So it says, standing by your graveside or sobbing into your pillow, I know your pain. On the days when you feel lonely, worried or sad, I know your pain. Through the nights where sleep seems far away and you feel like you might break, amidst the anger, the confusion and desolation, I feel your pain. For I was there, remember, when you smelled the roses of their love as your fingertips stroked my petals and tried to avoid the prick of thorn. I felt your hopes, your fears, your joy of deep connection. I ensnared it in my scent to help conjure that affection. In my fragrance, remember hope. Let my aroma you complete. May scent of celebration heal you, calm you, and help you sleep. For through me you are never alone, always loved, and open to give and receive more. Smell me, open up, and feel safe to feel love once more. Now I anticipate that these will be different for everybody, but that's entirely my dad talking to me. I feel quite choked up reading that, actually. When he died, he gave me a rose bush. My cousin works for a rose bush company, David Austin Roses. I'm sure you've heard of them. He's quite a senior manager there, and Dad arranged for a rose called Noble Anthony to be given to me and my sisters at the funeral. So I go and sit and talk to the rose bush. That's a great reminder that my dad's with me today. So that actually, Dad, that really helps. Thank you. So let's have a look at the energetics. We can see middle heart chakra, obviously. Water. Now, again, as I say, in the knowledge base, there is a much bigger lecture on water. But the energy of water is how it can flow around any obstacle and find a way to fill the space. So that's great. That's lovely. And Venus is obviously the planet of love, but there's lots more to do with beauty and money, actually. There's an interesting lecture on Venus. I like talking about Venus. Balance is Vata, Pitta and Kapha. If you don't know, Vata is very drying, Pitta is hot and fiery and moist, and Kapha is sluggish. So it brings it all into alignment. But in the knowledge base, as I say, different lectures on each of those. So it nourishes the blood. Well, I've got funny blood, actually, so that's useful to know, Dad. Thank you. Yin and essence. So yin is the feminine aspect. It's very gentle and passive and receptive, and it harmonizes the heart and Shen. We just talked about Shen. So we're going to put all these in a blend in a minute. And so last but not least, the cards have told me that I should go for lavender, which I guess is probably just over the page. Still in the pinks, as you can see. Oh, I remember this one too. Cover them up, cover them up. Can you see? There we go. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you breathe me, dilly dilly, softly you dream. Anger and grief, dilly dilly, softly drift by. Worries and hurts, dilly dilly, kiss them goodbye. When you feel tense, dilly dilly, look for the bees. See how they buzz, dilly dilly, resting with ease. Learn from their hum, dilly dilly, for they all know. Learning to rest, dilly dilly, helps you to grow. Breathe in the scent, dilly dilly, lavender's light. Calm your stressed mind, honey, honey, surrender the fight. Release cares and worries, dilly dilly, I help you to see. Life is so good, dilly dilly, just let it be. Okay, I'm going to let them flow, not force them. This helps, this really helps, you know. I've got to tell you, when I was helping Gergley do this, he was sending me his notes, and every time they came across it, I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to do the cards. These are really hard. Didn't like my poems at all. Really found them difficult to do, and really, I just wanted to be writing my Melissa book, which I kind of still do, but I'm feeling a bit happier. Now I've got the cards in my hands and I can see them because they really help. Honestly, they really, really help. So, and of course I might be biased because it's my words talking back to me, but hearing the plant and seeing it written down, it's very, very helpful. So, actually I've probably skipped the most valuable part of the process for speed. But when you turn out your cards, if you have got the oils, I would sit and breathe the oil as you read the poem. And that's very difficult to do on this camera like this, but because then you will really hear, you'll have that connection with the plant. It will open it up to you. So top to middle note, as I say, Glay's going to talk to us about the blending. Water, we've just talked about how that finds ways, effortlessly finds gaps to do things, doesn't force it, just gets around any obstacle. Heart chakra again. Mercury, communication, data, information. Yeah, that's very a mercurial medicine. We'll talk about that. I know there's a very interesting lecture about Mercury. I originally wrote the Mercury ropes for the pain practitioner program. And so these are quite detailed lectures, about half an hour long, the medical astrology ones, because of course that's my passion. Neutral to cool is the action. Yeah, cooling like the roses. Activates chi. Now again, we'll talk about chi in the knowledge base, but basically it's the life force. You know how we said we talked about Shen? Well, if Shen doesn't have adequate chi forcing it through, then it becomes disrupted. And I always think about it feeling like you're treading water. So the activation of chi calms Shen or nourishes Shen or raises Shen, depending on which essential oil it is. It aggravates Vata. So yes, this is one of my favourite nags. So the world tells you to put lavender essential oil into every massage oil, into your moisturiser, into your bath. So it aggravates Vata. People, it will dry you out. That is how you get dry skin. Aggravates Vata, makes you a bit vapid, a bit dreamy. So all of the time you're like the dreamers that wander around on a cloud. If you're not careful, too much lavender makes you that. Pacifies kapha, so it stops you feeling sluggish, stops you feeling heavy. It's not really directly indicated for constipation, but that shift of energy through kapha would release not only constipation but congestion in the sinuses. And pacifies pitta. Well, pitta is hot, so it's calming. It reduces inflammation. Anything that's red, hot, angry, it'll calm it down. So there we go. So first I've got my smelly stick, and really this is only because then I can stick it down my top and you won't be able to see it. So we could use aroma pendant, we could use massage oil, sniffy sticks, whatever. This is just what works for me, and that's the most important thing, that it's the thing that works for you. So cedarwood Virginian is a fast oil, if I remember rightly. So this is quite a thin distillation. Ooh. And then we'll mop up everything off the table. Dip it up, wipe it up. Oh, it's so beautiful, it's smoky. It's beautiful, and I can tell you the lecture is about tapping into your ancestral line, and given that my ancestral line is full of wizards and witches, that's very helpful. Lots of plant healers coming to my aid. So a bit of lavender, warm the bottle. You'll notice I cover the thing. It's not because I'm covering the labels, although it's because I can't be bothered going, don't ask me which oils I use, but it's more because it's very cold in this shed, so things get stiff, especially myrrh. Goodness me, when we come to do the myrrh video, I have to warm it up 3 weeks before. And then beautiful rose. Look at the colour of that. Beautiful. It's my favourite bit, you know, was it waiting for it to come out, just seeing the colour. Have I got the nerve to let it drop? I have. Go on, mix, 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 blend. You know, whenever I try and do videos, I always want to have the image of oils mixing, and it nobody ever quite videos that effectively. I think it would be beautiful. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that is sheer heaven. Just beautiful. So yeah, if you obviously want to buy the cards, there's a link underneath that tells you where to get them from. But also, if you want to use the knowledge base, there's a link through to that too. And goodness me, when you start to smell that and you feel all the knowledge base opening up all the different shifts in the body and how they move and how they're executing through the physical body, it's really extraordinary. It's a whole new layer to plant medicine. So there we go. That is how to do the blending. Can't wait for you to watch Gerglo talk about proper blending in a minute. It's nice to see them being used, isn't it? So, safety. Actually, it's a simple oil to use. There aren't really concerns. There is a theoretical concern that it can thin the blood. So if you have a clotting disorder, a platelets disorder, or haemophilia, or any of those other ones, then it is something that you would not want to use huge amounts for. It's not an oil, in my opinion, that thins the oil to the point that there's blood, to the point that I would say don't use it. Likewise, if you are like me and you have to use blood thinning medications like Clexane, enoxaparin, warfarin, if you're going into surgery, then you want to use it with care. If you're going into surgery, or if I were going into surgery, I would stop using it for 3 or 4 days before to make sure that it wasn't thinning the blood so I bled out on the couch. But for the rest of the time, as I say, it doesn't bother me with my blood thinning medications. It's a theoretic risk. I don't feel it's a contraindication as such. It's safe in pregnancy, but like I say, with all of the oils, I wouldn't use before 16 weeks. Cats and dogs really like it. They like the smell of it, but also if you've got I treated a dog actually of mine that had been bitten by fleas, and he developed horrific eczema all over him, and his fur started to fall out, and no matter how many times we treated him against the fleas, he would go to the same place. It was my fault I was walking him, but I'm going to blame him, where the hedgehogs had been in the long grass, and he would pick up another flea. He was so susceptible to them, and his skin was horrific. And in the end, breaking the cycle was using other oils in addition to patchouli. So that, and he liked it, you know, he liked it. So that's fine. Children, yeah, energetically, for obvious reasons, it's quite an adult kind of, it's after a 9 o'clock kind of fragrance and feeling to it. But there's no reason why you can't use it on children. And like I say, I can think of lots of reasons for eczema and things like that where you could use on a child and it would be very good. There's no contraindications as such for little children, but just with the same proviso as I usually give tiny ones, their skin isn't very robust. So I tend not to say under 6 months, but for babies, you know, 6 months to a year, it's lovely for that sensitive skin, so it's a good choice. So I think that's the safety. Oh, maximum dilution is 3%. So if you don't know what that means, it means that, for example, we can take a teaspoon of carrier oil, and because a teaspoon is 5 ml, And in 1 ml, we can say there are roughly 20 drops of carrier oil. So by the time we got to 5 ml, we've got 20 times 5 is 100 drops. So that means in that teaspoon of oil, we could have 3 drops of patchouli and be happy and safe. Any more than that, I can't see that there would be a contraindication with it, but you would be knocked out by the fragrance, to be honest. For the most part, I don't use patchouli up to 3%, way lower percentage than that, because its fragrance is so strong. But let's see what the maestro has to say about that. He's the one that knows about the blending. So now I'll show you the safety slides, but then we will go across to Budapest and see what he has to say.
Hello, Punk of the Trees fans. This is Gergely, and this is the patchouli blending video in video 2 for patchouli oil, and the cards and the illustrations, which is here. And the keyword is harmony. Well, if you'd asked me which was one of my favorite essential oils, then guess what? I would say patchouli. Maybe nowadays, and earlier I really liked it too. But as I'm getting older and older, maybe you say, oh, Gergely, you look young. But I feel that I'm actually sort of like getting drawn to patchouli for whatever reasons in the last couple of years. So it's just one of my oils that I would just smell the whole day and night. Latin name, Pogostemum cablin. I don't know what that means, but it really sounds very exotic for me. And always going back to my travels in India, I saw patchouli, and I actually, to be honest, I didn't have an idea how patchouli, the plant, looks like. I mean, like, I could see it on the internet, you know, illustrations, but live, it's pretty much not, it's not a big plant. It's just like, sort of like up to my knees, maybe less than that if it's young. It's just that it has that kind of green leaves with, you know, these cute little flowers, and they are actually these purple flowers. Not something like, wow, this is like a great plant. You look at it, it's just such a novelty. It's such a grand plant. No, but it gives a mighty essential oil, which is actually distilled from the leaves of the plant, or the flowering tops, but mainly the leaves they use it. And you can find patchouli oil coming from India, definitely. Then you have Indonesia, then you have Sri Lanka, which is almost India, let's say. Sorry for if I'm not politically correct, but Sri Lanka and India is the same region for me. But also you find it often from China, and maybe sometimes from Brazil, funnily. One of my friends loves patchouli, and he tried to cultivate patchouli in Budapest in his downtown flat. Never succeeded. He was so much after that, you know, he hunted down the little seedlings, and then, you know, he started, he wanted patchouli plants. Never succeeded. It's probably for the tropics, right? I guess. Not the Budapest cold weather. Anyways, this oil, you find different colors and different aroma, not descriptions, but like aroma profile. This is one of the oils which is very commonly adulterated, because this is used extensively in the perfumery industry. They use it in soaps, aftershave, all sorts of toiletry and other stuff as well. So beware and look out for it. Also, this is the oil which actually, similar to vetiver, which with aging, the aroma profile becomes better and better, deeper and deeper, and richer and richer. I remember in 2014 when I participated in the NAHA conference in Seattle, and there was one workshop where Andrea Buget, she was talking, I don't remember exactly about the lecture she was giving, but she was handing out a 25-year-old patchouli oil on smell strips. Oh, you could just, it was just so deep. It was, and then here comes the aroma description, how I would describe it. And there's a long list. First of all, I would call it smoky, earthy, resiny, definitely dry, sweet, sweetish, also musky and musty. They are two different words, I guess, right? Two different smells. Warm and radiant. I love this. Warm and radiant. Warm and radiant. Sometimes when I remember all those descriptions from my students in my aroma classes, someone mentioned it that it is described as a bit moldy, like a wine cellar, So it has that definitely those woody undertones, and sometimes like root-like. All right, so it's a very complex aroma. All right, and it just gives depth to the blends. If you're talking about the aroma combinations. All right, so if I'm looking at the uses, which Liz lists as well, obviously, but it's great for the skin. A lot of the estheticians use it for all sorts of different reasons because it's an antiseptic oil, right? So if you look at the chemistry, it has lots of sesquiterpenes, lots of alcohols, and less monoterpenes. So it's great for inflammations. It's great for soothing the skin, and it's great for because of the alcohols. It's the patchouli, which is the all-time famous patchouli, or patchouli alcohol, which is great for the infections. It's great for pimples. It's great for a lot of things. So they use it on the skin extensively. They use it also for the nervous system because it calms you down. It grounds you, and of course in natural perfumery, which is like number one for me in perfumery. But also it is used extensively in spiritual work. Sorry, I've got this little cold. So if I'm looking at the blending with patchouli, I have quite an extensive list actually. It goes well with most of the citruses like bergamot, mandarin, grapefruit, but it also goes very well with, if you want to create these exotic blends, then you can use sandalwood or atlas cedarwood, and also frankincense, myrrh, definitely with vetiver. And as I mentioned, like the tree moss absolute and patchouli, oh my, it's heavenly. But it really goes well with some of the florals, like lavender. Lavender is much better because it's a true lavender, right? But also it goes pretty well with ylang ylang. And oh my God, rose. If you know a little bit about artisan perfumery or niche perfumeries, there's many brands that use a rose patchouli combination or rose patchouli vetiver combination, and they call it like the dark rose, for example. So it's like, try it out. It's marvelous. It's amazing. I love that combination. But also you can use patchouli with neroli. Oh, that's just number one. Then also you can use some of the herbals like Roman chamomile, rosemary, clary sage, some of the spices like black pepper, maybe ginger, maybe cinnamon, or clove or coriander. These all go well with patchouli. Of course, not in great amounts, but small and minute amounts, right? Also, you can try it with lemongrass, and then if you try lemongrass, then you can try palmarosa, you can try Mei Chang, or maybe you can try also eucalyptus citrion or lemon-scented eucalyptus as well. There's just one more interesting thing about blending when you are talking about natural perfumery, and or in perfumery, definitely, because we haven't talked about the notes for patchouli. it is definitely a base note, right? So it helps fixing other notes as well, and it acts like a bass note in general. For example, and this is very interesting, there's an exception, and I don't know if you remember this perfume from the 1980s, Thierry Mugler's Angel. It was a very new wave, absolutely something like a novelty in perfumery, because it had it was like cotton. How do you call it? Cotton sugar or something that you eat like fairs and parties or something. So they used Thierry Mugler's Angel. They used patchouli not as a bass note, but it was used actually in the top note, right? In the head. Very funny. It's a fixative. It's a bass note, and it's used in the head, in one of the head accords. And just go and try it out. I'm sure that a lot of our female viewers from different ages, they might remember Angel. It has this distinctive bottle of like a star green bottle, great bottle. So I said I was talking about some of the blending notes. I was talking about the aroma description, and I think I covered pretty much a lot about patchouli. Of course, we can talk about it hours and hours, but we have limited time for this video. So if you like this video, come back for the next one, which is going to be Petit Grain for me. And see you next time. And until that, happy blending.
Well, I hope you found all of that helpful. So just before we go, I would like to push 3 products and say, if you've enjoyed the content here, please leave a comment and please click like, and ideally, if you can think of anybody else that uses essential oils, share it on your Facebook page, whatever, because we really want to grow this. Because you've had a lot of free content to pay us for these. If you do think about going getting these cards, the Tongue of the Trees cards are designed to bypass the conscious mind and talk to the unconscious mind. And we've kind of gone more deeply into that, haven't we, when we were talking about the eczema. There are additional products that go with them. So, for example, if you wanted to go more deeply into the earth medicine or the medical astrology, you can also buy the knowledge base that goes with it, which is a set of 45 different lessons about medical astrology, about Ayurveda, about traditional Chinese medicine, about how the essential oils work on the chakras and the aura, and how to blend them. All of it obviously relating to the essential oils that are in the Tongue of the Trees cards, of which we cover in total 56 different oils. And lastly, but certainly not least, if you are a newbie to essential oils and you don't feel confident making your own products yet, and you think, but I really want to be able to do this as well, Gare and I have created a database, as I say, of nearly 500 recipe videos now, where you are sitting in a room with a professional aromatherapist. I've got nearly 40 years experience, 30 years experience of essential oils. And obviously I've held the post of UK Director for the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapists. So I know what I'm doing. I understand how to blend. I understand how to blend safely and how to get the best from a synergistic blend. And if you feel that you would like to access that, it's just £5.99 a month, and cancelable at any time. But it gives you a way to look and say, for example, I really need to get on top of my PMT, or somebody's got long COVID or something like that, where you think I need to be able to look at how to get the lungs better, or just get a better sex life, or all of the things for meditation. All of it's in there for you. So 3 different things to think about. And with that, I want to say thank you for being with me today, and for learning with me what is patchouli essential oil good for. See you on the other side.
You get your phone, you turn it this way up, and then there's a little red subscribe button. Turn it grey by clicking it, and then there's a little bell. Click that and press all at the bottom of your phone or tablet or computer. It'll say you will receive all notifications, and then there's a little hand with a thumbs up. Click that, it'll turn it blue and it says added to your liked videos, and there will be comments, and if you want to, you can send a comment and say like hi's to Mum and Gagley, and then the link to the next video will be in the description below underneath the video. So bye.